6 o'clock, and with that, we'll call our meeting to order here. First order of business is to look for additions or deletions to the agenda. Are there any? Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
So moved.
Support.
Motion support, one last chance. All those in favor? Thumbs up and a yes.
Yes.
A thumbs down and a no if you prefer not to. All right, thank you. Next item is roll call. Sarah, have you completed roll? No, we need to do that verbally, don't we? I'm sorry.
Yes, we do. Thank you.
Be used to that by now, shouldn't I?
And we're almost done. Okay. Commissioner Warnick?
I'm admitting him now, Sarah.
Oh. Commissioner Warnick, if you're there, we're in the middle of roll call. Actually, we just started it. Can you tell me where you're joining us from?
Present in Carson City, Michigan.
Commissioner Stahl?
Present in Alma, Michigan.
Commissioner Pitts?
Present, Alma, Michigan.
Commissioner Piccolo?
Present, Storm Lake, Iowa.
Commissioner Allman?
Present in Alma, Michigan.
Vice Mayor Harrington?
Present in Alma, Michigan.
And Mayor Mapes?
President in Elmo, Michigan.
Thank you. We do have a quorum.
Hey, thank you, Sarah. Appreciate that. Next, we'd like to move to the Pledge of Allegiance. Aaron or Sarah, I think one of you has a flag for us. If you'd please all rise and join us in the resuscitation of the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you. We'll move now to entertain a motion for the approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of the June 8th, 2021.
Move approval.
Support?
Board, are there any comments, questions, or corrections? Hearing none. All those in favor of approving minutes, be a thumbs up and a yay.
Yay.
Aye.
Any opposed, be a thumbs down or an A. Looks like the motion is passed. Thank you. Moving to communications, we have one from Melinda Lentz regarding the proposed use of the Warwick Living Center by Bethany Christian Services. Your pleasure to receive.
Move to receive.
Support.
I have a motion to support. Any comments or questions? Hearing none. All those in favor of receipt, thumbs up and a yay.
Yay.
Aye.
Any opposed, be thumbs down and an A. Looks like that motion is carried and their communication is received. We need to hold a public hearing to consider an application for an obsolete property rehabilitation exemption certificate from 120 East Superior LLC for 116, 118, and 120 East Superior Street. The purpose of the OPRA is to assist with the creation of a new commercial space and residential apartments in the downtown. This OPRA district was established on May 14th, 2019. So we'll entertain a motion to open the hearing.
So moved. Support.
Questions? All those in favor, be a thumbs up and a yay.
Aye.
Any
Yay.
opposed, thumbs down and a nay. Okay, the hearing is open. Eric, are you leading this?
Yes, I can, and I'm going to share a screen here. So I'll get into that. Right. That's not it. Well, that's not it, folks. Let's redo that. Screen 2. Okay. Do you see a general overview, obsolete property?
Do-
No?
Yes, we do.
Oh, yes. Oh, okay, good. Okay,
Yeah.
good. It wasn't showing my green outline to show that it was being shown live. Okay. Um, the property in question, 116 to 120 East Superior Street. Currently, that is where the Gallagher Everett Law Office and Highland Blush is located. 116 is currently vacant. That's where the cardboard addiction space was at. And there's a picture of the front of the building that we're speaking about. Just an overview for anybody that is looking at this or wants to know what an obsolete property tax exemption is. I know the commission here has heard this multiple times, but never hurts to go over it again. The OPRA, what's short for, is a tax incentive to encourage the redevelopment of obsolete buildings in a commercial district. It's designed to assist the redevelopment of older buildings which may be contaminated, blighted, or functionally obsolete. And these particular spaces and in this block are defined as functionally obsolete. The goal is to rehabilitate the older buildings into vibrant commercial and commercial housing projects. The OPRA essentially takes the existing taxable value of the designated building and is frozen for up to 12 years. By freezing the taxable value, creates an incentive for the developer to make significant improvements to the building without increasing the property taxes on the building. This provides an opportunity for developer to recoup some of the costs of investing in more distressed property. Now, we do see an increase in property taxes, even though we are freezing them, because underneath the OPRA, we can't freeze school taxes and bond issues. The local government unit first must establish a district, and we have established that district, as you mentioned, back in May 14th of 2019. This is the second part of that process. We have received an application from the owner of the obsolete district and submitted to this board for a recommendation of an exemption certificate. We're holding that public hearing right now. And currently, what we're proposing as staff is to provide the incentive up to 12 years. If the board so chooses to approve that recommendation after this public hearing, the packet is sent down to the State Tax Commission, and the State Tax Commission has up to 60 days to approve or disapprove. And in most cases, what they do is they reach out to the developer for extra questions or extra information to help with their review of the application. Just a quick synopsis of what this will bring to the downtown. The structure will be of approximately 20,712 square feet of space. Once the rehab is complete, the plan is to have 2 residential apartments off the rear of the building on the ground floor. 12 residential upper-story apartments, 5 of those being 2-bedroom, 7 1-bedroom. And then also, obviously, with all that going on with the building, the project will include obviously new plumbing, electrical, HVAC, an elevator, the new doors, windows, flooring, roofing, and facade work for the project. Total investment that they're estimating at this point is $3,466,600. Obviously, a very substantial project for our downtown. I believe JP Buckingham from Triterra is on the call tonight representing the developers. I don't know if he wants to add anything, but from staff point of view, what they've provided to us is what's required for the OPRA application. And if approved by the state of Michigan, will be another exciting project for downtown.
Yeah, thanks, Eric. And yeah, I don't really have anything. You said it well. So it's always good when the consultant doesn't have to really say anything. And I know on the last meeting, Zach and Nancy were on the call, and as well as Jim Wheeler, who described the project with a little more detail. So I'm happy to answer any more questions about the project. Zach was not available. All right, I mentioned that I'd be on the call tonight as well. So if there's any questions, let me know. And go from there. Thanks, Eric.
I have a quick question, just the detail. What did we do with Gallagher Law Offices was quite the renovation too, if I remember correctly. Now, is that just going to be incorporated? You're going to work around it? Is that going away? Are they covered currently by an Oprah? I don't know if we did that for when they did their offices. I don't recall. Do you know, Eric, or does anyone?
Yeah, Nick, the law offices, we held our DDA meeting last week to discuss the brownfield plan. They will not be touching their offices as part of this project. The Oprah was not part of that renovation, because that was not.
Okay.
That was not a part of it.
So it's just kind of around that. It's like in the middle. So okay, I didn't know. I thought we had done an Oprah. Would have assumed we did an Oprah for that law office, but I didn't know if that's what we did. Okay, thanks.
Other questions?
Hey, Eric, I think you said 12 years. That's the standard, or is that the?
Yeah, that's the maximum, and that's what we've recommended for all their projects in the past. Like I said, that's just our recommendation to the state.
Okay.
So far, they've accepted all of our recommendations from the city. We hope they continue that.
Great. Yeah, that's what I wondered. I didn't know. I'm like, where did he come up with 12?
This is a public hearing. Eric, or Aaron, are there any members of the public that would wish to comment or question?
If they would like to, they certainly may unmute and do so now, but I don't see anyone with a raised hand or indicating that they'd like to comment, Greg.
Okay. Well, while we're waiting, is there any other members of the commission that have any comments or questions? All right, doesn't sound like anybody has any further questions. We've been through this a few times, I think. We've all looked at this project, and it's a great project, so very exciting for the town. With that, I believe we need a motion to close the public hearing.
Support.
Motion and support. All those in favor be a thumbs up and a yay.
Aye.
Yay.
Opposed be thumbs down and a nay. Okay, thank you. Moving on to request for purchase. First up, we have a request for purchase in the amount of $16,200 to Best Excavating and Trucking for 1,000 yards of sand and 800 tons of road gravel for the Public Works upcoming season. Your pleasure.
Move approval.
Support.
Dave, did you have any comments? See you're popping up here.
Yeah, I apologize if my connection's a little goofy for whatever reason. It's kind of unstable. What this is for our inventory for doing road patches, excavations, and that nature, replenishes our stockpile.
Anybody have any questions for Dave? Seeing none, all those in favor would be a thumbs up and a yay.
Aye.
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 Both thumbs down and a nay. Looks like that has passed. Thank you. Thank you, Dave. Next item, we have consideration of request for purchase the amount of $13,966 to Honor Security Incorporated of Saginaw, Michigan for upgrading the current security and software systems at the Alma Public Library to Ava Cloud cameras and software, which will include replacement of old cameras, installation and programming of new cameras, and training for staff. Your pleasure.
Move approval.
Support.
Art, who has the first question? Or does staff have anything they'd like to share before we go further?
This is just it's going to the cloud too, which helps obviously with all of the servers and everything with that, much more secure within that system. And the old cameras, it's time for them to move. They're obsolete.
Okay, and one question comes to my mind, since the next item is also for security cameras of some sort for the transit system. Is there no ability to combine bids and use one vendor rather than using separate vendors for all these? You're muted, Matt.
Yeah, I actually lost you on my screen for a half a second. I hit the wrong button. You're back. Depending, Greg, some could be, but some, like within transit, these are different types when you look at the vehicles. There are some differences from there that need to be looked at, but to be frank, and honest, I think it's something we probably need to look at in order to see if there would be something different down the road for the buildings especially.
Because I think the school, does anybody know if the school has two separate systems for their buses and for their buildings? And I would think they have quite extensive systems.
I don't know what the school has, Mayor, but I know that our buses do have something different. We have currently a Honeywell system, and the program is, in order to go back and retrieve any video, it's horrible. Absolutely horrible. So I'm looking to get this upgrade.
I've never viewed the school system, but I've heard it's pretty remarkable as far as the ability to go back and find various events. I'm just curious if we should be maybe send somebody to consult with the school before we move forward with this.
Matt, you might want to, we have the same system the school has for our security cameras, but we also kind of coordinated and worked with IT Right first. They had a guy that kind of specializes in that stuff, and they sent him out. And then from there, we got the information from the school and kind of did some comparisons on things. And we ended up going with the school system, but that might be a good place to start. They're very knowledgeable.
Thank you. That's Alma Public Schools order?
Yes, and I can get you the name tomorrow. I just, for some reason, I'm blanking out on what the system is called. I don't know why.
Brett, any ideas on what they run?
I have no idea what the schools run. I could find out from, I know their director of transportation, so I'll be seeing her a lot this week.
And when I say the schools, I mean the buildings. I don't know anything about transportation, so just so you know, that's just, we have the same system that their buildings do.
I don't know if they use the same system for their buses or not, but it just seems like they're running similar operations, buildings and buses.
Right.
My bid too was for doors and cameras, so.
We can make some comparisons if you want to hold up. That's fine too. We'll make some of those comparisons.
So there's two things going on, right? One is to see if we can unify that bid and use more buying power for the library and the bus system. And the other is to find out what system they're using to see if ours is comparable or better. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, I think the more you buy, the better deal you're going to get with.
Yeah. And I think the idea too of making sure of compatibility and everything of what we have would be from there, so we can, whether theirs is better than ours or ours is better than them, maybe it's worth that dialogue.
Nice to know before we spend this kind of money that we are getting the best possible system.
Yeah.
I agree completely. When I drove part-time for Alma Public 4 years ago, I think they had 1 or 2 buses that had cameras on them, and they came that way. So I don't think they're retrofitting. I think new buses that they purchased, they're adding camera systems to them, but I'm not sure of that anymore. I know there was 1 at one time.
We
had a motion, is that?
So do we vote, Greg, point of order, do we vote down this motion, or do we change the friendly amendment to table this until research is done?
Well, whoever made the motion may choose to withdraw
We
it.
could withdraw it.
I think it was me. I'll withdraw it.
Support, they will also withdraw.
Support.
So with that, a motion would be in order to table the 2 requests.
That's
Does
right.
that make sense?
Yes.
Move to table the 2 requests.
Support.
So the motion on the table is to table the request for the purchase of the amount of $13,996 to honor security for upgrading the system at the library, and also to table the request for purchase of 17,569 to Unified Networks of Ithaca for upgrade access to the Alma Transit. So with that, are there any questions? All those in favor of tabling would be a thumbs up and a yay.
Aye.
Aye.
3 thumbs down and a nay. Looks like that has passed and we've tabled it, so we'll look forward to hearing back from staff as to what they find out. So thank you. The next item is consideration of request for purchase in the amount of $37,675 to Postma Signs and Graphics of Grand Rapids, Michigan for a new electronic sign at the Alma Public Library, including installation, software setup, and support. Your pleasure.
Move approval.
Support.
Support. Any comments or questions? Lori, did you have anything to say first?
Yeah, sure. I'd like to. Hi, everybody. I just would like to say that, first of all, we are very excited about possibly getting this incredible marketing tool that will allow us to advertise programs and services to literally thousands of residents in Alma and Gratiot County. According to a recent traffic study, it showed that approximately 7,855 vehicles drive past the library each day. And if we assume that an average of 1.5 persons over the age of 18 are in each vehicle, we can estimate that an electronic sign would reach approximately 4.3 million people over a 1-year period. And that is just really an incredible opportunity for us. Our library is a vital resource in the community here, and bringing awareness to what we do and what we offer is really essential to being able to continue to offer these programs and services. And an electronic sign will allow us to promote regular library programs, such as our weekly story times, bi-weekly Lego Club, monthly toddler programs, teen book clubs, plus special programs, our popular summer reading program, and it doesn't even count for the additional programs we plan to begin offering for teens and adults. Additionally, we will be able to better advertise our services to folks who may not have access to our website or our Facebook page. We'll advertise our free Wi-Fi available to the library at the library, as well as Wi-Fi hotspots that we check out. People might not realize that we have 3 meeting rooms available for business meetings, parties, and nonprofit groups, or 2 private study rooms, or our excellent faxing, scanning, copying, and newly added laminating services, and our digital resources such as Overdrive, Hoopla, Libby that we have available. Not a lot of people know, but many people might not know about our Genealogy Room, our local history room, which includes microfilm of local newspapers dating back to the late 1800s. We just have so many incredible resources that we want our community to know about. An electronic sign will allow us to easily advertise our library hours, closings, emergency information. We can even advertise city events like Lucky McDuck or Highland Festival or Come Home to Alma. We can advertise public emergency messages from the police department and the fire department, or support for our community, like Welcome Back Scots for the fall, or Go Panthers. There's just so many things that this marketing tool could do for us. This sign was actually approved back, I believe, in 2017 or 2018. I don't have the exact date in front of me, but for whatever reason, I mean, just because of circumstances that kept happening, it kind of got rolled over each year and did not become purchased or implemented. And we found ourselves with some extra resources this year, because last year was not a typical year for anybody, and it wasn't for the library. We were closed for several months. We reduced our hours. We had a full-time position that had not been filled for most of the year, a part-time position that didn't get filled. We didn't do any in-person programming type of activities. So we found at the end of our cycle this year for the budget that we had some extra money, and which will not be typical for next year, but we do have it this year, and we thought this would be a good time to purchase this sign and get it implemented, and so that we can start sharing what we do and what the community has to offer with everybody.
Thank you, Lori. And no doubt you have great programming going on at the library and a lot of valuable services that the community does enjoy, and we do appreciate that, as well as your beautiful facilities. So, personally, I have to say that I am opposed to this purchase at this point in time. And again, it's nothing derogatory about the library, any of the operations or anything like that. It's just a matter of, I think, priorities for the community at this point in time, that we have put substantial resources into the library and the library operations. And I just think it's not fair to the large number of other programs and assets that the community has that we have not put any resources towards in the last decade or so. While the sign may be a very, very valuable tool, it strikes me as something that's more, I hate to say an extravagance, but it's more of a nicety that perhaps there can be other ways that you can market your services using perhaps the school electronic signs. I know Pine River Township has a sign that they were asking for information to post on there to help share information. A number of businesses in the communities in our community have signs that they more than willingly put public information out on. And you might take advantage of some of those, at least for the time being, until it becomes more appropriate for us to do this. But does anybody else have any comments?
We aren't taking money. We're only using the money that's in our budget that was approved for last year. And so we aren't, asking the city for any more money or taking it from any other place. It's coming out of monies that was already approved for us to use for library expenditures. Using other people's signs, well, it kind of defeats the purpose of having this wonderful software to create dynamic messages and exciting things that will draw people's eyes to it and make people aware of what the announcements are. And so I'm not sure that would be, something that would work out that well, because we would like to be able to control the messages. We'll have the software available to us. We can put the messages out immediately. We don't have to wait for somebody to program it for us or to create the message for us. It would be our programming and our messages at the time we want them to go out.
I remember us approving it a couple years ago, I believe. And then with everything that happened, it just got pushed in the back burner.
It did. And like I said, we did not have a typical year last year. It was just the perfect storm, and we have this money. The sign was approved, and I think it will just be a wonderful addition for not just the library, but for the community, for the city and the community also.
No doubt it'll be a nice addition.
I remember
With the sign being approved, sorry, go ahead.
Well, I remember discussing it, and I am always in support of the library. I mean, I was concerned about the cost of money, but if you're saying that it's library budgeted money that you've carried over for the year, that makes a difference. Can you tell me where it's going to go? Because I remember paying what seemed like a lot of money for the concrete sign or whatever brick sign that's out there that we modeled the one.
Yeah, I don't know if you noticed. Roxanne, I don't know if you noticed in your agenda packet, but I put a picture in there of the stone sign that we have out front, and they're going to manipulate it to fit this new sign. They'll have to do a little bit of manipulation, but it's going to go right there in that stone sign.
Inside.
So I don't think it will be any more distracting than the sign that's already there.
No, but that sign isn't going away, was what I was going to say.
No, we're not. It's going to set within that. That's going to be the pedestal for it.
Okay.
And it looks very beautiful. They showed us many different pictures of it, and it looked very attractive.
The fact of the matter remains that these are taxpayer dollars that are in control of the city of Alma. And we've got, a boardwalk on our Riverwalk that has been neglected for a number of years. I believe some unsafe boards are there. Some parks that have been neglected for a number of years. A number of our other buildings that haven't had the type of maintenance dedicated to them that the library has. I just think it's time, that there's some other areas of the city that need some funding that haven't had it over the years when the library has it. I have nothing against the library, but.
So how would that work then if we've already approved the budget? I mean, I understand that the other places need money, but how do we take it from a budget that we already approved from the library to move it to parks and recs?
We can change the budget.
It works this way. The budget is simply a plan. It is how we're distributing the resources according to a particular plan. No budget ever unfolds the way it's planned, for
Right.
one. So what I think what Greg is saying is, if you say, for whatever reasons, there's money in the library that was in their budget, they want to reinvest in the library, but in reality, all of that money is the citizens, or it's the corporation's money, the city's money. If we say, in the context of other things, like Greg's talking about, we think, tomorrow we're going to talk about the CARES Act and those kinds of stuff. If you start to say, we have these different pools of money, and we look at it holistically, what's probably the highest and best use of the resources we have to reinvest in Alma? And I think I would argue that always any organization could say, if we have that kind of resource to reinvest, something happens, didn't go according to plan, we may want to look at it more holistically. Not that that's unimportant with the library, but what are there things that are actually more urgent than that is the question, I think, in front of us. And if there are, do we say that money is maybe swept back up and reallocated in some other way? Because I don't think it affects their operations.
Well, if this was approved, if this sign was approved for purchase and we have the funds available, I don't understand why, why this is the worst time to do it.
I think too, Nick, one of the aspects I want to hit with tomorrow is truly that the ARPA money, the American Rescue Plan money, needs to be the start of a basis that truly is about prioritizing things. Even more outside of just the ARPA plan, the money that's available through them, it would truly be about all these priorities of listing them out, whether they're ARPA eligible or not. I think this is the time for us to actually do that and look at those priorities.
Forgive me for not being here. Like, I was here 2 years ago. What was the bid or the price at that point in time when it was approved? Because I wasn't on the commission at that point.
I believe it was around 28,000, but Brian had put a bid in for a one-sided sign. He was going to put it on the wall of the library. And when I was looking at them, I thought that a two-sided sign out by the road would be a better benefit. More people would see it. And so there's a little bit more of a cost involved.
Okay. Yeah. So initially the commission approved a certain design and that design changed. So I think that, obviously there's something to that in terms of how we're able to look at it now.
I'd also like to just point out, and I don't know the exact rules and everything of how this all works, but if it was approved in a prior year as a capital project already, then the money is technically still sitting in the library's fund balance. So I don't know how all that works as far as if that money could then be used for something else. So if that was a decision that wanted to be made, I think we'd have to look into the how that would all work. Because I don't think you could necessarily use that for something outside of the library, because it's already basically in the library's fund balance, and you couldn't use their fund balance to fund something outside of the library. I don't know, like I said, I don't know all the rules on that, but if that is the route that we want to look into, I'd want to do a little bit of research on that before we actually made that decision, because I think that there is some catches when it comes to that.
It seems to me that it was not a capital project. I remember, talking about it and approving it within their budget. But if it were a capital project, I don't think it is movable. But we move money from one department to another department all the time, and that's totally within the law, I'm sure. I'm kind of in agreement with this. I think it is a great idea, but right now I would kind of rather take let's wait and see what happens. We're going into a whole new world here with the funds that are coming that we're going to talk about tomorrow, that they say are coming, but nobody has seen a dollar yet of any of that. So I think with all of the other things that we do have, the parks and all of that, I would rather just kind of wait on this personally.
Listen, folks, too, maybe I should know this, but I do think this might be something to take a look at legally and see how this would be done, because you're talking about a couple of different things. If it was approved at a certain amount, what are we going to withdraw that approval? Or, you know what I mean? That's one issue. Then the next issue would be, I guess if it's there, the money is in the library, does that mean next budget, they've already got $27,000 or whatever from before, and could you give them 27,000 less or something like that? There's other things to look at. I don't feel comfortable. I would feel much more comfortable if we had a chance to take a look at this before we decide.
So we need to know what our parameters are with that money. In other words,
Absolutely, I think so,
a
yes.
commitment doesn't disappear. If it's an operating fund, the commitment doesn't disappear. If it's not operating, it doesn't disappear with the end of the fiscal year. For example,
Correct.
I plan on spending something in my office. The fiscal year ends, things get swept up. Whatever I planned on, even had an agreement for, it goes away. It starts with, a new agreement has to start with the budget year. Does this fall into that category, or is it like a capital, which
Right.
is already approved and on? I mean, it
Yes.
might be worth it to table it till we get the legal answers.
I think so. I think so, because, you know,
And with-
that's gonna color our decision, I think. You know.
And with that, can we get other options to maybe not, I mean, there's a big difference between 28,000 and what did the final bid come in at? Sorry, I don't have the number with me right now.
What
It's
is- just over 37,000.
I mean, there's a $10,000 difference there in what was initially approved versus what is actually being taken into place. It seems like there's a big gap there in what could or should be done. And I'm sure it could be more expensive as well.
It was a different sign, Danny.
I'm curious.
I understand that, but I mean, there's more than one sign, and I think there's
Right.
more than one way to put up a sign, and there's more than one type of sign to have only one option when it's $10,000 more than what was initially
Right. I'm
approved.
just
I
saying
think
the one that we have talked about before was up against the wall. That's why I was just saying it.
I understand, and quite frankly, if you put the same sign up the same way you were going to, it's going to be more just because the cost of labor and materials has went up.
Right.
So I'm not expecting it to be the same price. I'm just saying I think that one option at one price is very limited to us, especially when it's, again, 10,000 over what was initially approved.
I remember being a part of the discussion and not approving the library sign, but I don't remember being a part of anything where it was approved. So was that before our time that it was approved and then it came up in front of us again and we decided not to do it? I don't really understand if it was.
The time it came up second, Audra, was it did come up when we actually took the full library amount away prior to the last budget year, and that included the sign too.
So when it was approved, so it was approved at one point, I don't understand why they didn't buy it. Like, what happened?
I'm not sure of exactly the reasons. It was before I was the director. I'm not exactly certain. I would have to believe that, Brian was having some health issues and he was getting ready to retire. And I think that it was, a pretty big task to research and find exactly, he had done research on the sign and everything. So I'm not sure exactly why it got put off, other than I think that there were some things that came up with health issues and getting ready to retire that. And then when I took over, COVID came along and we put it on the back burner because of that, and trying to, make purchases that were just necessary for maintaining operations.
Well,
And so
it sounds like we need to go back through minutes and see if in fact it was approved and then why.
And what it was approved as, to make sure if it was capital or in operating, so we can pull those.
Okay, so I'll withdraw my motion.
Yeah.
Right? That's what I need to do?
That's,
And then we can table it?
that's one way to handle it, yes.
Okay, I withdraw my motion.
Heard it?
Then I would think we need a motion to table, and then,
It seems Michelle ended the discussion quickly, but I just wanted to say really quick, not quickly, sorry, but Lori, I just want to say, I do think your idea is excellent. I like the two-sided sign. I like the idea of it out by the road, much better than on the building. I think it'd be so much more visible and more valuable that way. And so I do think like it's a really great idea. If we look and we figure out that that's where the money, I think that's a great idea. And I think that's what we should do, because I agree with you as far as a marketing tool, but I do think we have to look at some other things first.
Okay.
Can you get more pricing on it too? Get a few more options?
I did get 3 quotes, but I can check around and get some more. I checked with some local people who are also getting similar signs, and it's pretty much in the ballpark. The high school, I talked to them about their signs. I talked to Graco, they're getting a new watch fire sign, which is what this is, and they're getting a 16 millimeter, so it's a little less, but.
Okay, you did your homework then.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Additional comments or questions? Looks like the motion was withdrawn.
Right, so maybe we need a motion to table it then?
Correct.
And,
Move to table?
Support.
We have motion and support. Any additional comments or questions? Hearing none, those in favor would be a thumbs up and a yay.
Aye.
Opposed, thumbs down and a nay. The motion is carried and the item is tabled. Thank you. Moving down to F, recommendation on bids, consideration of a resolution to receive bids for the Alma Parks Restroom Rebuild and Rehabilitation Project and award the project to the recommended bidder. The following bids were received June 3rd, 2021. The recommended bidder is Griffith Builders Incorporated from Lakeview, Michigan, with a bid of $593,000. And it goes up to the high bid. The third one was $675,000 and a middle bid at $606,000. So your pleasure.
Move approval.
Support.
Support. Comments or questions? Eric, did you have anything to share? Substantially higher bids.
Yeah. Obviously, when we submitted the application back in to April 2019, our engineering estimate came at basically 350,000. We submitted the application. We came back to commission and said, hey, let's look at how we can improve our score for the application, and commission, and we decided to up our match to 50%. So that took us to 173,000 from the state and 173,000 from here locally. Obviously, COVID this last year have pushed prices up. We did get an updated engineering estimate as part of the process we have to do with MD&R, and the engineered estimate was going to be around 620,000. So we obviously our draws dropped, and he was like, well, we hope that it comes in less than that, but that's what we're seeing out there, and hopefully we get more than one or two bids. We did have 5 contractors show up at the pre-bid meeting. Did only receive 3, and the low bid did come in at the 593,000. And like I mentioned in the memo to the city manager, we do have a time table on our Michigan Natural Resources grant, or that 173,000. Everything has to be constructed and done by August 31st of 2022, with all paperwork and everything signed and put to sleep by November of 2022. So we're kind of up on a time crunch. We discussed it with the engineer. Would it make sense to go out and rebid it? Their feeling was that's probably not a good idea with the timing you have, and doesn't look like in the next 6 months things are going to change that drastically to drive down those costs, substantially, to make it to take that chance on it. So that's why we have it here in front of you today. It's bad timing, and I don't know what else to say to that. This is just where we're at from a construction standpoint at this point.
Greg, if I could, I'll jump in too. I think we've had some of the discussion that Eric and I have had since this, when we saw the prices out, the change. In looking initially at the rescue plan and the ARPA monies, and we'll discuss this more tomorrow, it does appear that due to the circumstances in this, I think you would say definitely that the price increase in this is due to COVID. We had a price prior to COVID. We have a price after COVID. The bathroom being community related, there's a lot of things you can say. it could be something that would be able to fit, that we could fit some of that difference into some of the ARPA money. I'm just throwing that out there, that we know this has been a long time battle for us to get to even to this point, and the disappointment when we saw what those numbers came back, but that could be an option for us still going forward.
Hey, Matt, what's the repercussion if the commission decided not to do this? I'm assuming you lose the grant money.
Yeah, we
And
know
then you lose the grant money. What does that do to your chances to get another grant down the road?
probably pretty slim at that point. I think that it would make a change because Eric and I talked about, there's really no provisions within the grant, the grantor saying, well, gee, we get it. It was COVID related, and you're not going to do that project now. You would basically renege on the grant, which could obviously hurt your standing down the future.
Well, there's no guarantee that the price is going to be any lower going forward.
It sure doesn't sound like it. It sure doesn't.
This is for one new and two rehabs, correct? One new at Wright Avenue and the rehabs at King Park, or at King Park and Riverside. Is that correct?
Riverside and Conservation Pine River Park.
Conservation is what I meant. Yeah.
Yep.
What was the cost of the one that we put in?
I'm sorry?
What was the cost of the one that we put in on Charles Road at the bike trail?
At that time, it was just under $100,000 for the two stall bathroom. And this one here for Wright Avenue, it's a 4-stall, and the low bidder has it at $250,000.
Okay, just clarifying.
If I could jump in here, I don't want to interrupt anybody. My connection's bad, so if you can't hear me, I apologize. One of the things we looked at too was some kind of unorthodox ideas. We allowed a lot of flexibility in this contract, knowing that the prices were going to be up. We talked to the contractors about the idea of once you start on a restroom or one of these projects, you have to finish it. We also looked at the idea of you could take on each project separately. If during the, say, summer months, fall months, you wanted to do the exterior facade of one, you could do that. But once you started on like the exterior, you had to work on it till it was finished. You could work on and construct the exterior of the Wright Avenue restroom. And in the wintertime, you could go in there and finish it out. Same thing with working in the spring. So allowing some flexibility in their schedule to try to reduce that cost so that we didn't have a strict timeline and that it had to be done, say, by the end of this year or November or anything of that nature. Trying to keep the prices lower if all possible, if there was any kind of a bump in prices due to right now materials being in short supply, that maybe if they could order them or buy them in the later year or early next year, prices come down. So we wanted to give them a lot of flexibility in this, trying to look at different ways to keep the costs down.
And we still got this price.
And the grant is for 173,000, right?
That's correct. That's correct.
And we would still be, no matter what, even if we could fit this into ARPA, we would still be on the hook for our share of the 173,000. It would be the difference then that we would hopefully be able to apply to the American Rescue Plan monies. But that's not a guarantee at this point. I think we need to talk about that more too, to make sure that it is eligible.
So on the grant, obviously, I know we wrote it, for this full project, but will they allow us to change the scope of the project to fit the dollar amount? So like, could we do Wright Avenue and Riverside, which is closer to that, 173 and 173? Would they allow us to do something like that? Or do you have to do the full scope of what are we sure?
Yes, we're tied to that scope because that's what's been appropriated by the state legislature for these projects. So they tie you to what you've asked for.
So considering the circumstances, have we asked we can't be the only ones that are facing this. So I wonder if we questioned it, if they haven't thought about that.
Well, they told me, obviously this was right in the middle of COVID when they signed the agreement. in September, and when they sent us the final, yep, go ahead and go out for bid, they go, well, your bids are going to be high, and you have to make up the difference. That was the comment I got back from them. I mean, I can ask, obviously. I mean, I can. I can always ask, but
You know, I operate grants, and we've been able to do some things because of, you know, the extenuating circumstances. And obviously, you know, when you guys applied for this grant, it's not just about COVID. I mean, well, it is about COVID, but it's the materials that's, you know, the big problem. And so I just wondered if maybe they would, you know, I don't know. Like I said, they can't be just, if we can't take the grant, there's probably gonna be a lot of people that can't take their grant as well. Because, you know, municipalities can't come up with, you know, just pull this kind of money out of thin air, you know, but I don't know, it's just a thought.
Matt, does anybody know how long it's going to take to find out if that rescue money could be used for this? I mean, when would we find that out?
The clearinghouse isn't up yet to ask specific questions. I do know that, but I just think as you read through, this seems to be, to my interpretation, and we can discuss it even further, that it fits some of the criteria that you would need to be able to see. This was a project that had been approved at an amount that we had expected. There is definitely a relation to COVID that would tell you why this increase has occurred. So I think that until the clearinghouse is there to actually ask that question, but I would say as we go through those things tomorrow night too, I'll try and give you where we think this may fit, that it could be from there.
I'm just wondering if we could wait until you got that, you know, that response and still fit it within the timeline and get it done by 2022 when it had to be done, or is that unlikely?
It could be. I can reach out to Treasury tomorrow to see if, to get an opinion. I don't know if anybody will give me, you're getting right now from them, what I would call a non-opinion. When you ask a specific question, it's read the guidelines, that type of question that comes out. But I can definitely reach out to someone in Treasury tomorrow and see if they have a specific opinion on this.
I hate to keep playing the table game here, but I think that's what we need to do here, especially since we're going to be discussing some of this stuff as early as tomorrow. But I don't think we can make a decision on it tonight. Maybe in 2 weeks we could if we have some more answers. But I think until we know what's going to happen with this COVID money that's coming down, whether we can use it, I'd hate to just lose this thing when we discover a month from now that we could have used money to do that.
And I think if you lose this, it might affect
future
grant attempts. That's
absolutely.
That's one of the questions.
Well, yeah, I definitely, and I really think if the COVID money isn't going to be able to be put towards it, we really just need to talk with our grant administrator and have some discussions, because I know you can't be the only ones that are facing this, and they have to be talking about it. So I think sometimes just reaching out and having those conversations might be helpful too.
We could actually,
if I could ask, how long are these bids good for? They typically are 30 days.
We obviously we told them that, you know, this would be the day we'd make a decision for it. So, you know, lately you sign a contract. If you don't sign a contract in a few hours, prices change. So I don't know. I don't know, Greg.
Danny, are you seeing any changes with materials? Are they coming? I've heard rumor that they're starting to come down. Is this true or no?
It's all at small scale. So anything larger, a larger project, you're not going to see. I mean, you might see prices dip in certain areas, but the bulk, especially raw type materials, they're still going up.
Okay.
They're becoming more available, but the price is still going up, which doesn't make sense. But they just are.
Okay.
We do have a motion on the table at this point. And who made that motion? Sarah, could you tell me, please, the support?
Nick made the motion and it was supported by Roger.
Roger has suggested he would like to see the motion withdrawn. I don't know if Nick has any interest in doing that.
Yeah, I can withdraw the motion. Motion's withdrawn.
Withdraw the second.
So we're back to square one. Does anybody care to make a motion on this bid recommendation? Table or to support it is to go forward. We can still go either way.
I just have a quick question. So like Danny was just saying, there is a chance if we don't approve it tonight that the bid could go up significantly. Correct?
I guess we don't know if the bid contained any kind of a date, I don't believe at this point. And maybe Dave could jump in.
So because Danny said that the prices are going up even though that they're getting it. So we just have to remember that it might be $593 today, but in 30 days it could be $650. Right?
Possibility. You're absolutely correct.
Okay.
Right. There's no guarantees.
So just want to throw that out there.
I will attempt to make a contact with Treasury tomorrow. So I should at least have an answer or non-answer, to be frank with you, tomorrow about if they'll give me any indication if this looks like ARPA eligible. I would say as I read the guidelines, I think I can, but I may be biased as I'm reading the guidelines. I'm seeing a way where I think it fits. And all indications are, if you think you can make it fit, everybody says, well, then you'll probably be okay. That's a real good thought until they come back later and say, well, that was a nice thought, but it didn't work out that way. So,
And without that money working for this, we don't have a way of paying for it. Is that what you're saying? I
We
mean,
could pay for it.
we could pay for it.
Yeah, just come out of our fund balance.
It would be out of a balance.
I think
Because
I agree with
I-
Michelle on the 30 days being long. I think if we
Right.
did anything, I think it would have to be the next, we obviously meet tomorrow. And then I think we have our next meeting together. I think we need to have at least a little more information. And then we can always push it back again. But at some point, you got to make a decision. I think 30 days is too long for us to look at it again. I think next meeting would be the appropriate time.
Well, is even the next meeting too long is because what Eric's saying is he gave them the information that our meeting was tonight, which it would either be approved or denied, theoretically. I mean, I understand all the discussion we're having, but so he may need to, the 30 days may be because he has no bids that are going to be
correct
viable and has to start all over again. So I think it's just a matter of
The other issue too, guys, is it's a weird quirk from the calendar, but there's 3 weeks before the next meeting, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not just two.
And is there a mechanism, and I don't know if we can do this because we vote, where we would approve it pending confirmation after tomorrow's meeting? And we could, after we talk about what we get tomorrow, if we want to use this, we could say we're going to confirm this decision or not. Can we do that, or is that because this is a public meeting, we can't do that and that's not an official business meeting?
Tomorrow was booked as a work session, not as an official session, was it?
So it wouldn't be legal to do it. I didn't know if we could approve it pending confirmation tomorrow, and that's sort of an extension of the business meeting for that portion.
Well, the other problem is
We
I
have to
don't
send
know-
notification. Yeah.
I don't know that we get confirmation tomorrow either, right? I mean, I think Matt's already indicated he thinks it'll work just by what he's reading, but I don't know that we're going to get.
I'd be frank, Tony, I'd be really surprised if I don't think anybody from Treasury is going to stick their neck out and say,
Right.
because they don't want to start that process of everybody calling on this specific project. I think as I will try to talk it through our way of where I see it fitting and get a read from someone from Treasury to see what their thought is.
Why can't we approve it by bathroom? Why can't we approve the two bathrooms?
Contracts.
The grant is tied to all three, the whole scope, with the state of Michigan.
I understand that, but we haven't had any discussions with our grant administrator about changing that scope of work. And I really do think if you had that discussion with them, they would allow you to pull one bathroom out. I don't think they care. They just care that you've got the grant money to rehab bathrooms. Like I said, my whole business is run on grants, and I find it hard to believe that they're going to say, nope, you have to do 3, even though it's 3 times the cost.
I will ask again.
Have you asked that?
When we got the high bids from the engineers and they said, well, you do realize that these are a bit higher than what your grant amount was for, and you're responsible for completing the scope and for the extra costs. That's what we were told. So I guess we could, obviously maybe they've had some other people, more people come back since then and fight them on that, and we could go back and look. I mean, ask.
Saying you have to realize it's more. So then my question is, then I would say, could say to them, then can we pull one bathroom out of it? Because I don't think that question was specifically asked.
My fear, Audrey, is that because it's the state, it may take legislative action in order to enable the grant administrator, that department, to do something like that. They may not have the authority.
I run a lot of state and federal grants, and I just
Well, I don't think there's any reason we can't ask that question.
I will defer to you because you clearly know more about it than I do. I don't know with any grants.
I've never seen, like I said, they cared about how you spend their money, but for them to be very specific to say, no, you have to spend it on X amount of bathrooms versus X amount of bathrooms, I just find that hard to believe. But if you guys think you've already got that handled, then I'll let that go. But
Well, I think, Audrey, it's definitely worth the question. There's nothing hurt to ask that question. There's nothing hurt at all to ask that question to see what they say.
I mean, because they gave you a grant for whatever it was, 173,000. We said we'd match 173,000, which was what is in our budget, or what we have, or whatever you want to say. And then this came in, being quite a bit higher. So I don't know why they wouldn't let us use the money on what we can afford. But,
Much sense.
I mean,
If this was a 50-50 match, in order to make it 50-50 again, we reduce it by one bathroom. So you would argue that we're within the intent of the grant by doing this, as opposed to we're trying to get off the hook.
right.
And in theory, it sounds great. You're still doing what you said in your grant, but I also can see that things sound great and make sense to us, and then the state says, yeah, I don't think so. So
the administrator has a lot more power than what you're giving them credit for, because we have a grant administrator on every federal and state grant that we have, and they are able to usually make those decisions for us. And we have had things very similar come up where, for example, we had a lot of travel money that we obviously could not use because of COVID, because nobody traveled. And so they were able to quickly make these decisions for us on where we could spend, substantial amounts of money because of extenuating circumstances. And so those grant administrators are given more power than we give credit for tonight. So I think there is, I don't know, I just think with the extenuating circumstances, and we're not the only people they're going to hear from, and they don't want you to give the money back. Believe worse on their end to have to deal with that. So I feel like they may give us a little bit of grace that we just haven't asked for.
I think it's worth a shot.
And if they say no, then they say no, and we have to figure something else out, but I don't know.
And forgive me, did we have another motion put on the table yet?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
We can figure out what it should be.
So would you like to make a motion, Audrey?
I don't know what to even say we should do. I mean, do we table it till our next meeting? Do we feel like?
How about approval contingent upon or approval with the authority to negotiate with the state for a reduction in scope?
Does that work, Tony?
Well, I mean, it works, except I think what you're committing to is the 593 if the negotiations fail. I mean, I think that what you're saying is we're good for it. And we're going to try to negotiate with the state. We might try to get the rescue money, but if none of that happens, we're on the hook for the 593. So, I mean, if that's palatable, I think it would work.
Don't we want, when I said if we don't have the money, he said, well, we could get it out of fund balance or whatever. I mean, we have said over and over again, and I'd feel horrible. I mean, this was one of Larry's top priorities, was those bathrooms in the park, and we've discussed it, how important that is. So part of me feels like, yeah, we are saying, either I don't know. I mean, it's all very frustrating, and the whole meeting seemed frustrating, but if we're committed to this, if we're committed to making the parks more usable and fixing the bathrooms, we can try all these avenues to get the funding, but then we need to say, okay, we're doing it anyway. I mean, I don't know.
That makes a lot of sense. I mean, I think legally that's what you're doing. I think if what you're doing is approving it and you're basically telling the grant folks, we're good for the money. If we can get it somewhere else, that's great, but you're going to get what you're entitled to. We're going to meet our obligation up to the 593.
Right. Because I also don't want to put us in never getting another grant because we,
right. No,
you know,
yeah.
I have a question, Matt, or maybe this is a Curtis question, I'm not sure. So if, let's say, we can't change the scope of work, we can't use American Rescue Fund, we're gonna use the fund balance, and we're gonna do this, is that okay? Are we okay with using that dollar amount? I mean, what's your?
It fits within our policy. It fits within our policy to be able to do that.
And it doesn't put too big of a dent on one side or the other, or how you're feeling about?
We have been fiscally very responsible. We do have the fund balance. It's just a question of if this is a priority to spend it upon, if it needs to be spent on a project that is of high enough priority.
And there's, I think the other thing to keep in mind is the viability of Alma's chances of getting future grants. I think that's an issue you got to at least consider. I mean, because if you don't get, if basically, like what we said, if we renege on this, what happens the next time we apply?
And it's a chance of losing this 173 if we don't get it completed in time, right?
Right. Right. And we've decided that this is
a
thing. Right. And I mean, I don't feel like this is a frivolous thing that we just brought up a month ago that we're now trying to decide whether it's important enough or not. I mean, I think we've discussed this for a long time, that I feel like there are too many things that we will feel negative repercussions from for the long term if we don't follow through. I mean, and that's not to say, I think we should try all the venues that Audra suggested, and she certainly knows way more than I do about that stuff, but I just think that we may be setting us up for losing a lot more than money that we decided was important to put into the bathrooms in the park. So that's.
And we also have to understand that the contractor bid out 3 bathrooms. So if we change the number of bathrooms on him, his bid is not going to be a linear bid. It's not like it's just because we took off 1 bathroom, it's going to be 2/3 of that original amount. I'm sure based on the scope of work, he bid it accordingly.
Sure. That is correct, Danny. You're right.
Because frankly, this is exactly where I thought the discussion needs to start when we get to when we talk about the ARPA funding. If this, I think, and through our discussion tonight, you can see where this is already rose to the top. I think that we've had a commitment, and Eric, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe this has been over a 5-year discussion. And we know that when we started the grant process, but this has been a discussion for over 5 years. The community's been very, very aware of our discussion and the importance of these bathrooms and what they can do to make the changes in our community. And so I do believe, again, I'm telling you, looking through the ARPA, and Curtis, I know we had the webinar the other day and looking at it, and it's the one thing that we can look at it and go, I think that fits, knowing this already in the back of our mind. And, my fear is I sure don't want to be making decisions on ARPA and then them coming knocking on our door later. So we don't have time to wait for the clearinghouse though either, to be frank. So I will do my best also to have that kind of discussion tomorrow to get a flavor. I'm going to tell you up front, I'm probably going to get that non-committal thing and, well, read your guidelines. Does it seem to fit? And we can talk about that more tomorrow night, even of where I think it fits as to how it can do. I think it's one of those rare things that kind of does fall in place. And so I do think if everybody's understanding we're looking at $930,000 in ARPA, and we're talking about what, 224, Eric? Because that's where we were at, which we would be
247.
247 for this. So that's a substantial amount even within ARPA. So, but I do believe we know that's the commitment that we probably need to invest in this project overall. It's a long way to say. So if that was the motion, I guess I believe that's probably we're at the 593, and it's whether we can get more help or not.
And Audra,
just the ARPA money is just a matter of one pocket or the other in the long run, Matt.
Yes.
If we don't use it on this, we're going to use it on something else. we'll use the fund balance on this, or we'll use that on something else, so.
Greg, Curtis was just about to say something. I didn't get to hear.
We have about 3 million in general fund balance, just as a
Thank you.
point of clarification.
Thank you. I do remember hearing that at one point, but it's a lot of numbers to, thank you. So did we make a motion or where are we?
I do not believe we have a motion on the table. Are you prepared to make one for us?
I can, but I can't remember what all we're doing now. So I will make a motion to approve the bid for the bathrooms with the contingency or the stipulation that you guys are going to check into some other things to maybe support that. Correct? Does that sound about right?
With the understanding that ultimately, if this motion passes, we're on the hook.
Exactly.
And that makes perfect sense.
Okay.
And I'll support
that. Yep.
So, do we want more discussion? Thank you both for your motion and support. We appreciate that. I don't like this either. I think it's it's horrible that we got this price increase, but this is such a high priority, high visibility project for us. I especially look back at Wright Park, and we had citizens raise, what was it, $200,000 or $300,000 to put a play structure in.
Yeah.
So for us to put a few $100,000 into a restroom for the community to use while they're using that play structure, I think is vitally important. So while I think it's expensive, it's not money that's going to waste by any stretch of the imagination. So thank you for that. Anybody else have comments before we vote?
Shocking part is that bathrooms cost that much. I just have been, even when we talked about the one out on Charles, but that is where they are. That's the way to make them, and to make them so they're a lot more indestructible also. And I think the grade that we're looking at, so.
Yeah, it's the same way in your house. It's one of the most expensive rooms per square foot to remodel, I'm sure. So anyway.
I'm sorry. I apologize for interrupting. Can you tell me who the second was? I didn't catch that.
I did, but Dan came in. Yeah, so.
So dealer's choice?
Yeah, I'll take it.
Thank you.
Okay. So all those in favor would be a thumbs up and a yay.
Yay.
Opposed would be thumbs down and a nay. Looks like that motion is carried. Thank you. And thank you for the discussion. That was very good discussion, folks. Even though if we don't like the price. Moving down to resolutions. First one is consideration of resolution to authorize an obsolete property rehabilitation exemption certificate to 120 East Superior LLC for 116, 118, and 120 East Superior Street. Your pleasure.
Move approval.
Support.
Okay, we've talked about this one already. So are there any questions? Hearing none, those in favor would be a thumbs up and a yay.
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed would be thumbs down and a nay. That motion is passed. Thank you. We're rolling right along to consideration of a resolution to amend Resolution 2021-0073, Treasurer's Special Assessment Roll for 2020. This is to correct a transposition in the noxious weeds subtotal, correct the grand total, and amend a listed property owner and allow for a payment received since the initial approval. Your pleasure.
That's a lot of
Move
stuff.
approval. Move approval.
Support.
Support. Any comments or questions? Sounds like we're just mostly collecting clerical errors. So those in favor would be a thumbs up and a yay.
Aye.
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 Okay. That motion is carried. Number 3 is consideration of a resolution to approve year-end budget amendments as presented by the finance for fiscal year ending June 30, 2021. Your pleasure.
Move approval.
Support.
Any comments or questions? Curtis or Matt, did you want to cover anything for us?
Yeah, I'd just like to point out a couple of things. I don't want to necessarily go line by line, but with all of the budget amendments specifically for the general fund, this is still a balanced budget. So every overage and expenditure was covered by, and also an overage and budget from revenue. So this has no impact on any of the fund balance as far as beginning of the year fund balance, because this was all covered by additional revenue. to that note as well, even if we use the amended revenue number based on this, we are still at less than what our actual revenue to date is. So this isn't even just based on projected numbers and hoping that we get the revenue. This is revenue that's even already been received. And then we plus even have a little bit more than that already, plus anything we might get in. So we're looking, I think year to date right now, we're looking at around 300,000 in revenues over expenditures for the general fund. That's obviously before year-end adjustments, so there still could be some changes there, but it looks like it's going to be, even with all of these changes, addition to the fund balance instead of deduction from it this year. So I just wanted to point that out for some, hopefully easing some minds when we look at a list of amendments. So.
Chris? I think we just spent that 300,000 a little while ago, so. Does anybody have any questions for Curtis? As fast as he finds it, we can spend it, right? So keep finding it. Okay, we had a motion on the table. All those in favor, be a thumbs up and a yay.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, thumbs down and a nay. Motion is passed. Thank you, and thank you, Curtis. We appreciate that. Number 4 is consideration of a resolution in opposition to House Bill number 4722 and Senate Bill number 446, which both together preempt local control and regulation of short-term rental properties. Your pleasure.
So moved.
Support.
Support. Matt, did you want to give some background on this?
Sure. Interestingly enough, just before coming into the meeting, there has been some movement. The two bills that I mentioned in my newsletter that had been some compromise bills have been introduced. So I would like to say that the locals' voices are being heard. That it has stalled the short-term rental as initially proposed, which would have really eliminated all local control on what short-term rentals would be, which would have also taken about our rental inspection program and those things that we would have some control over locally. The two bills that have been introduced and are now up for debate give some of that local control back while still not allowing local units of government to completely ban short-term rentals. And I think that's where the rub was coming up. So as we look at these two pieces, I think our voice in sending this resolution on both to our legislators and then also getting that out for MML to put on their list shows that we've been concerned about this. So I appreciate if we were to pass this, I think our voices are actually being heard right now.
Thank you. I know the MML is also taking action on this. It is an important piece of legislation. So, anybody else? With that, all those in favor, thumbs up and a yay.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thumbs down and a nay. That motion is carried. Thank you. Moving to ordinances, we have one which is consideration of an ordinance, consideration of introduction of ordinance number 821. To amend the zoning map of the city of Alma as it appears in section 60-52 of the ordinances of the city of Alma. This ordinance is to conditionally rezone the premises hereinafter described, and I won't go through that big, long legal description, but it's basically the building that used to house the State Liquor Control Commission, currently houses Sherwin-Williams, and then I guess it doesn't include the restaurant, does it? Is that not part
No,
of
it does not. No, it does not for this particular conditional zoning, no.
Okay. So your pleasure on this one, introducing the ordinance.
Move approval.
Support. Let's talk about it.
And the Planning Commission did hold a hearing on this already. So Matt or Eric, who's going to take the lead on this?
Yep, I can, Greg. This, as you mentioned, we had a public hearing with the Planning Commission on the use of the parking area in front of what used to be the State Liquor Control Building and what is currently Sherwin-Williams. The the owner or soon-to-be owner, because currently it is owned by Bob and All Investments, and they're the ones requesting this. But the potential owners will purchase this if this all comes to fruition. They're looking to have 24 spaces for sellable cars in the parking lot, and as part of that, they have offered the conditions that you see in the memo there. That there'll be no on-site mechanical repair of cars. The used cars operations will be 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. The owner shall provide change of use plan with the appropriate building trades, being our building inspector here, and electrical, plumbing, and mechanical at the state levels. And then additional restrictions, they'll be utilizing the current lighting system that's on there. They will be providing a green belt currently. If you can kind of see it from that aerial that's there, but from the curb to the property line, that is all asphalt at this point. They will be taking that all out and providing green space and trees to give some buffer. And actually, it will make it look much better there than what it currently does now. They'll have one sign for both businesses, but that will be on the building, so that won't create any issues out toward the street. And to the potential user of the property, to their credit, we had one comment from a neighbor about the dumpsters, and they are not going to use dumpsters. They will be using 2 roll-away trash cans as opposed to a dumpster. So they were agreeable to that. So obviously, the reason for the conditional rezoning is in a B1. Vehicle sales are not allowed. So this is the route they requested to go through to see if they could provide some car sales and reuse the structure on the end there that used to be the liquor control building itself.
Eric, who has the first question?
And in your packet, there is the a site plan to show the new layout for the parking lot, the green belt. It's a black and white picture, but that's the draft site plan there.
Well, think about that, Eric. One thing did occur to me, and it didn't occur to me when we were talking to the Planning Commission, as far as putting trees in that fairly limited space there, is that really a wise thing to do that close to the road? I mean, are we going to be looking at root problems down the road with that, or?
I don't think it'd be any different than we can obviously we can take less trees, but they were trying to provide,
are they miniature trees or something like we were supposed to get downtown? I mean, just
well they have it listed as ornamental deciduous trees, and we can work with them on what type of tree to put there. I mean, they just were good enough to offer, put in a green belt and some screening, to provide some kind of, it's not really screening, but just some break between the asphalt roadway and the parking lot there. So.
And I love the idea of green space and everything. I just worry about, the problems with trees down the road if they get too big. So,
well,
anybody else?
We can work with them, Greg, on that.
We can probably find something that's not going to grow quite so large.
Yeah.
Hey, hearing none. If we had a motion on the table, so all those in favor? Thumbs up and a yay?
Yay.
Thumbs down and a nay?
Aye.
Hit one against, correct?
I'm sorry, was there a no vote there?
I don't know. Danny, was your a no vote?
I heard an aye, but I wasn't sure if that was a no or an aye for a yes.
I'm not sure if I was too quick. Danny, are you still with us?
Danny, I think he's muted.
No, mine was a yes vote.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Yep, sorry, mine's a yes vote. I'm having a connection issues. I keep getting kicked out.
Okay. All right, so it is passed unanimously then. My apologies for that. I was too quick on the draw there. So next up, we'll move down to agreements, consideration of a resolution authorizing the execution of a revised project authorization for fiscal year 2021, section 5311, operating formula grants with the Michigan Department of Transportation, number 2017-0004/P16R1, to revise the formula amount from 18% to 36%, and to authorize the mayor and clerk to execute. Here's a mouthful. Your pleasure. We have a motion?
Move approval. Motion. Nobody cares. That's gonna die.
Brett does.
I do.
Support.
I do.
I'm sorry, support.
Okay, now we have some motion and support.
I'm having a hard time hearing, sorry.
Brett, did you want to give us some little background real quick on this?
Sure. Just the first 2 quarters, we were funded completely out of CARES Act money. Therefore, this is the change. The next 2 quarters are going to be double our regular funding. So we've been planning on getting this 36%. It's just coming from a different funding source. So the need for a new authorization.
Questions for Brett? Hearing none, those in favor, it'd be a thumbs up and a yay.
Aye.
Opposed, thumbs down and a nay. We have passed. Thank you. Thanks, Brett. Moving down to reports, commissioners may receive the reports by one resolution, or any commissioner may remove any of the items within section for individual discussion and vote. We have the minutes of the Downtown Development Authority, the Alma Police Department, the Planning Commission, and the City Manager's Report. Your pleasure to approve them all or to remove any or all of them from the list. I guess it's receive them, not reprove them.
Matt, do you want yours pulled, or we're gonna talk tomorrow night?
I think we're going to talk about enough of that tomorrow night. We've covered most of the other topics, so.
Okay, I move to receive all of them.
Support.
Support. Any additional comments or questions? Last chance to pull anything. All those in favor, be a thumbs up and a yay.
Yay.
Opposed, thumbs down and a nay. We have received those reports. Thank you very much. Appointments. We do have an appointment. Consideration of a resolution to appoint the following members to the Alma Downtown Development Authority Board for 4-year terms effective June 22, 2021. And it will be Stacy, is it Enns? That's okay. I apologize if I did it wrong.
No, that's correct.
Martin Mogenberg, Canyon Platt, and Katie Tobias.
Move
Move
approval.
approval.
I
Support.
assume they've all agreed to this, or they know about it at least?
Yes, they've all agreed to it. No, I was very appreciative. They've all agreed to it, and they're looking forward to it. Every one of them. So yeah.
Any additional comments or questions? Hearing none. All those in favor, thumbs up and a yay.
Aye.
Opposed, thumbs down and a nay. Looks like they've passed. We've added to the board. Thank you. Appropriations. Anyone in favor of paying the bills tonight?
Move to pay the bills.
Support.
Okay, we did have a motion and support. Are there any questions on any of the items within the agenda or within the bills, the list of bills? Appropriations. Okay, hearing none. All those in favor, thumbs up and a yay.
Aye.
Opposed, thumbs down and a nay. We've paid the appropriations. Very good. We'll move on to commissioner comments. First up, Danny. Mr. Wernick. would you-
I think it's a great conversation tonight, but other than that, no comment.
Let's see, Roxanne.
I don't have anything more to add. I enjoyed the discussion. We had our is today Tuesday? Second day of summer school this week. It's been good times having the kids around in the summertime. So, yeah, enjoy, and we'll see you tomorrow night.
Earlier, I'm not sure that sounded like a good time, what you described to me before. Michelle.
No comment.
Ibra.
I just would share that on July 1st, Braveheart Pub is having a fundraiser for child advocacy. And if you go down and eat or drink on that day, all day or anytime during the night, they're gonna donate 20% of sales back to child advocacy, and that does include food and drink. So it's very exciting. It's been hard to fundraise this year, so it's nice when we have some businesses that are trying to help us out, and we're gonna try to help them out by filling the restaurant up. So it's a win-win. So go eat at Braveheart's July 1st.
That's terrific. That's a great idea. Okay, Roger.
On that note, I have been out to 3 of our local eating and drinking establishments in the last week, and it's wonderful. I have nothing else to add.
Nick.
Nothing to add. Matt, what time tomorrow night?
5:30.
Got it. Thanks.
And we
At the
can't do that
library?
live, right? That is live if we want to come down there, right?
Yep. They were dying to show you this room,
So it's a hybrid.
kind of.
Okay.
Mr. Attorney.
I think I've said enough.
Never enough from an attorney. Matt.
I just look forward to seeing everybody if you can be here in person tomorrow night.
Sarah. I think I skipped you. Sorry.
Nothing from me. Thank you.
Well, we appreciate you keeping us on task. That is very good. And nothing more for me. Again, I echo Danny's great conversation tonight. I appreciate all the thought and consideration and caring that you all put in. So with that, we'll entertain a motion to end our meeting tonight.
I think we need public comment.
Oh, public comment. I'm sorry. So sorry. Let's see. Where's Aaron? Do we have anybody from the public?
I am here, Greg. I don't see anyone on the call besides staff, but if anybody would like to make a public comment, feel free to unmute and do so at this time.
Okay, it doesn't appear that there's anybody from the public that cares to address us. So with that, and thank you for Tony for reminding me, we will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
You may feel bad, folks. This might be the last one of these. So, you know.
So, double thumbs up for that one, right? Hey, all those in favor of adjournment, thumbs up and a yay.
Hi.
Look forward to seeing everybody tomorrow night. Great. Have a good evening.